If you're looking for homeschool sanity, welcome. I'm Dr. Melanie Wilson, Christian psychologist turned homeschool mom and curriculum author. But I was once so disorganized, I thought I had to quit homeschooling and stop having kids. Now, by the grace of God, I have 6 homeschool graduates. Whether we're discussing parenting, productivity, or practical tips, I pray that this episode is just what you need for happy, healthy homeschooling. Hey homeschoolers, how will you homeschool through the holiday season? There are many approaches that can work for you, but you're most likely to feel good about the season when you're intentional about it. I invited guest Katie Trent back to share with us some ideas for adjusting our homeschooling during the holidays. I also asked her about her new book that is a must-add to cart title. Before I get to our interview, though, I want to thank Now Programs for sponsoring the podcast.
We first noticed Asher was having difficulties with learning when he was about 5. We ended up having him privately tested, and of course it came back that he was dyslexic. It was super overwhelming. Like there was just list and list of all these programs. So we started talking to people and felt like everybody was just saying something different. I hired the lady that had tested him. She tutored him for a year. One-on-one, 4 days a week, she came to me and was like, it's not working. Thankfully, she had met Dr. Conway. She just highly suggested the Morris Center. From there, my husband and I got in touch with the Morris Center, and Dr. Conway spoke with us over the phone, and you could just really tell his expertise in dyslexia.
Enroll your child or teenager at themorriscenter.com, or for virtual sessions, visit nowprograms.com.
Katie, thank you so much for joining me again here on the Homeschool Sanity Show. I am really excited to talk about this topic. It was one of my favorite things to do, to plan to homeschool through the holidays, and that is what we are going to get into today. But before we do that, could you give us an update on you and your family since we spoke last?
Wow, yeah, so much has happened, and it's only been a few years since we talked, but since we talked, I've moved from Arizona over to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and we talked after my first book, Dishing Up Devotions, was released, but I've since released 2 other books, so I now have Recipes for a Sweet Child, which is a parenting book, and then my new book, A Merry and Bright Adventure, is released, and so I also have a Family Faith Building Academy course, so I have been busy creating resources for homeschool moms.
I guess so. And all of that while moving across the country. I'm super impressed. Okay, so let's just get right to it. I feel like one of the biggest issues that I had as a homeschooling mom when it comes to the holidays was trying to maintain a balance between my regular teaching, my regular structured lessons, and the excitement of holiday activities. Can you kind of speak to that for us?
Absolutely. And I think all moms would agree that is the struggle, right? But we have to understand too that each of us is different. So some of us are naturally more structured in our routines and want to or need to maintain more structure during the holidays, whereas others of us can be a little bit freer in that. So I think first off is being realistic with who you are, who your kids are, and what season of life you're in. Because I know for me, and I'm sure for you, each of those seasons has looked a little bit different. And then it's all about planning ahead and kind of stopping and thinking, like after this episode, stop and think about what do I want? What are my goals for this holiday season? And where am I at? Do I have a soon to be graduating senior and we really have to maintain a rigorous schedule? Or do I have a kindergartner or a first grader where we have a little bit more flexibility? What are my state's requirements, right? Depending on where you are, that can factor into it. So for us, because I'm like you, I love the holidays. I love all things holidays, and my kids do too. And so we plan ahead, and we've had times where we were able to build out and take off from we usually have to track ours. So take off kind of from that planning and counting those days from Thanksgiving to New Year's. And then we have other times where maybe our co-op is still going, or we have different things that we've had to do. So I think sitting down and thinking, what's realistic for me in this season? What are my goals? And how can we do that? And then building into your schedule what you need. And if you know there's some things that you want to hit, you might need to be able to do a little bit longer days some days so you can do more of the fun things, or you might need to say no to things or just switch things up. A lot of times I think we have more flexibility than we give ourselves credit for or really think about. And so if we can just take a step back and really think, oh, well, they're still reading if they're doing this fun holiday activity, or they're still writing if they're sending Christmas cards, we can kind of incorporate it in a different way. So I think planning is the biggest thing to really help you navigate that.
Right. And I mean, that is just really, really good advice too. And you're so right that we are all different, and we shouldn't just change who we are as a homeschooling parent when it comes to holidays. You don't have to, if you're an unschooler, it's probably a no-brainer. You can just do it. But if you are a textbook homeschooler, then there are ways to incorporate my next question for you, things like holiday traditions, Christmas and Thanksgiving traditions that were so important to me in my family. And I wanted to incorporate those into my homeschooling. But can you give us some ideas for how we can go about that, regardless really of our approach?
Yeah, so I think first off is just realizing all of life is learning, and there's lots of fun ways to incorporate the holidays if you give a little forethought. And we live in an incredible age where there are resources galore all over the internet, free or very inexpensive. So you might do a unit study. I love kind of studying the history and traditions, whether it's for Thanksgiving or, geography around the world, or maybe studying out your own family's history and different things. So you can incorporate, those types of activities. You can incorporate just fun holiday theme. Like if you've got the younger kids, if you're doing those, you can print resources that have those holiday themes on them. We like to do like scripture copywork or something that's themed, or to be able to we do a lot of art. I know some families are like cringing at that word and they're like, no, but if you like art, my kids love art. And so that was a fun way to incorporate some of the holiday traditions, is adding in art at the end of the day. Or we would sometimes kind of combine our schedules. Like I said, if we had to do heavier on a few days so we could have like a fun Friday where it was more holiday themed and focused, we would do that. And then we love to, for Christmas time, to go from December 1st and count down for Advent, or a countdown and preparing our hearts for Christmas. And so we always like to incorporate at least one fun activity. And those could be simple things like having a hot cocoa bar, or writing Christmas cards to send to people, or making holiday gifts. I mean, you can incorporate a lot of different things that our kids are using science for baking. They're using, they're reading the recipes. Maybe they're copying recipes down. They're using all of those resources and skills in more fun activity-based ways than typical just bookwork.
Right. Absolutely. And I was thinking that another thing that we would do was just so simple, but it was just a change from our regular Bible lessons to Christmas-themed Bible lessons. So we would do prophecies about Jesus, and that was our Bible lesson during that time of the year. And we would do some similar things with Thanksgiving. We had this box of all these Thanksgiving little symbols, and then we would read and learn about Thanksgiving and incorporate our faith and our gratitude as well into those lessons. So I do think there are a lot of really simple little switches that you can make during the holidays.
Absolutely.
So,
Gratitude's a big one, especially, throughout the whole month of November, where you can do a lot of activities that are fun and holiday based, but are really helping you in those things that you want to grow in.
absolutely. Okay, so I am going to be honest and admit that, well, once I got over this idea that I needed to recreate my childhood at Christmas time and buy my 6 children a ton of presents, I got over that because it was making me crazy. It was absolutely making me crazy. Just the wrapping alone was exhausting for me to do all of that. Once I got done with that process, I wasn't going to do that anymore. The fact is that Christmas in particular was not stressful for me because we as a family don't buy a lot of gifts. We don't buy gifts for my husband's side of the family at all. And I have a small family on my side to buy for. But I know that maybe, I don't know if it's most, but many, many families are stressed out during the holidays. It can be really, really hard because you have so many events. You maybe have to travel with your kids. Maybe you are purchasing gifts for everyone, every cousin, every niece and nephew, which I wasn't doing. So, how can homeschooling families manage their expectations about the holidays, which I know can lead to stress, and also avoid burnout during a busy season?
Oh, that's such a good question because we all struggle with that, right? We have our own stresses and stressors that come with the holidays. And I don't think you can find a single mom out there who would say there is not some extra stress. So the first thing that we've learned to do is we have a family meeting before the holidays ramp up. We sit down and we create a bucket list. So we sit down as a family and we say, what is the activity or activities that you love the most? What tradition do you love the most? Or what do we do that means a lot to you? And we compile a list as a family of those must-do activities, whether it's going to see a holiday lights display or sending Christmas cards. Our family, we do a door decorating. I call it a contest, but we don't actually put it out there for prizes, but we like to do door decorating. And so we take paper and we decorate our interior doors. And that's something that my kids love. And so we put those things that matter. And as a parent, as you're having this conversation, you can kind of navigate it because maybe we don't have money to go do that this year, but we could try this instead. So having that conversation together, I think, helps to manage the expectations so nobody is feeling upset. And because your kids have buy-in, that's exciting for them. And we always put it up on a poster or dry erase board so that we're checking those off. And that keeps us focused too if we're running out of time in the holidays to know, okay, well, I know this has come up now, but you said you really wanted to do the apple picking, so do you want to go do apple picking or do you want to do this? And you can kind of keep those conversations flowing. So I think the bucket list has helped us a lot. And then scheduling. So even if you're not a mom who does a lot of scheduling through the year, taking time to make sure that you're communicating as a family with your schedules can really help. My husband and I, we use the app on our phone and we have joint calendar. So if he's got a work something come up or the kids have something come up, we're putting it in real time where they can see what's happening. And then we also do a dry erase board on our fridge. So we put up for the week what they have going. My kids get anxious, if plans change or things like that. And so they like to know what's coming up. And so I think navigating your schedule and knowing what you can handle helps a lot too. Because when you see it visually, you're like, oh, I don't want to attend 4 holiday parties this week, or I don't have the food budget to do all of this, or we can't do all of these white outfit exchanges because we don't have the finances, or whatever it may be. It gives you the chance to really have those conversations. And I think not being afraid to say no and set healthy boundaries is a big part of it. Because I think for many people listening, and I know for myself, that was one of our biggest struggles, is setting the boundaries with with our extended family. And, they all had expectations and things they wanted us to do. And we had to navigate what works for our family. And so being willing to say no to the good things, to save your sanity, to keep your peace, to stay within budget, those things really matter too. So I think it's a lot of conversations. It's focusing on connection over, all the over the top things. And like you said, at the end of the day, those presents, they're not adding value to your lives. So what can you do instead? And we said no to some of the extended family we were trying to give for. We started doing more meaningful, homemade gifts, or saving and shipping by, using something like an Amazon, or finding ways with free shipping where we could send presents to those who are far without breaking the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And kids get excited to be part of it. So I think sometimes we forget to just involve the kids in more. Like you mentioned, wrapping. When I started having my kids help me out with wrapping,
Mm-hmm.
that saved my sanity and they love it, and it doesn't look as pretty as maybe mine would, but
Mm-hmm.
it matters and they're invested. So the more we invite the kids into the process too, whether that's cooking or cleaning or prepping or whatever, that will save so much sanity.
Yes, I just love your thoughts on that. And I wanted to add a couple of things. So, first of all, I'm going to put a Christmas bucket list printable. There were a lot of words in that. Christmas bucket list printable. I'm going to put that in the show notes, a freebie for you to download so you can put a bucket list together for your family. We definitely have done that as a family, and it's fun to try to get all those things that you really want to do checked off during the season. And then the other thing that I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about having to say no sometimes. Many times our families will apply pressure when we have said no, and they're really behaving a lot like kids who will just test your limits. They want to see, can I just say, oh, please, can't you come this year? Can't you join us for this? And they just want to see if you're going to stick to your boundaries or not. So I think if we can remember that it's not that they're really angry with us. It's not that they're just overwhelmingly disappointed. They just want to see, can I get her to change her mind if I apply a little bit more pressure?
Right. Can I get my way?
Right. So hold the line and just, acknowledge their disappointment. I mean, of course, we want people to be disappointed if we can't join them. But if you just keep saying, I love you and I'm looking forward to seeing you at this certain time in the future. I know it's a change, but it will become more comfortable over time. And then there are, of course, other ways that we can interact with family, friends who we can't see in person. Now that we have like FaceTime on our phones, I've done that with people who aren't with us on the holidays, and it's not as good, but it is a really nice substitute.
Absolutely. And we've done, recording videos so the grandparents could see the kids opening what they gave them, then have a phone call after. I mean, there's lots of ways for them to feel connected and loved, even if they can't be there. And even if you're in the same city, sometimes we just said, it's too much, or, for us personally, we didn't like having too much to do on Christmas Day. We stayed home as a family by ourselves. So we would get together the week before and do a gift exchange or, do something apart from those really busy days. So it's okay to build a new tradition. It's okay to do what works for your family, even if it's not what your extended family is used to. And I'm so glad that we've done that. We've created some of the most beautiful traditions with our kids from that have really helped them. We have moved a lot more than we even anticipated. And so being able to have done that has really been a blessing for our family. So do what works for you and know that it'll be okay. I think sometimes we think it won't be right. Or even the idea, I think with gifts, if somebody gives you a gift, all of a sudden you feel guilty that, oh, they weren't on our list and now I need to buy them a gift. But I want you to pause and remember that if somebody gave you a gift, if you gave somebody a gift, you would not be expecting them to give you one in return. And so don't assume that they're feeling that way too. It's okay to just receive that blessing without feeling the guilt of, now I've got to go do this instead. Just receive the gift.
Right. And, I think kind of implied in what you're talking about there, Katie, is that we are teaching our kids how to handle the holidays as well. So do we want our kids to grow up and be, absolutely exhausted with sick, stressed out kids because they're trying to do it all? Or do we want to teach them that it is okay to say, we are going to prioritize being at home with just our immediate family during this part of the holiday and to have some limits with what we do or what we buy. So I think that's another important thing to consider as we make plans for the holidays. So you have mentioned traveling. So I am interested in knowing if you have any tips for those families who are doing maybe more extended travel over the holidays. Are there any ways that you can share that these families can still be doing some homeschooling while they travel?
Absolutely. Road schooling is a real thing, and there are so many great resources out there for people who like to travel during the holidays or other times. And obviously, it'll depend a little bit on the ages of your kids, but I like to create some sort of a to-go thing, whether it's a little tote bag or a little container, a little binder or backpack, whatever it is, to kind of plan ahead with some things. So if there's something that your student is older and they have to get done during that travel time, make sure they have the book and the paper and things they need to do, being able to listen to audio books and resources as you're traveling or read aloud. We do a lot of read aloud when we're traveling, can be a great way to kind of keep your homeschooling up. I think we forget oral reports are a very real thing. And so when you're in the car, that's a great time for them to practice giving oral reports, share about the book that you read or, the science that they were doing or, their favorite memory from holiday traditions, things like that. And that keeps everybody engaged in the car and not how much longer and where are we at, and are we there yet? And all of those things. And there's lots of fun things, like you can play bingo as you're driving. You can play games, have little activity sets. Like when my kids were younger, we would make sure we had something for them to color, something they can play interactively between them, those types of things, copy work in the car or on the plane. You can do a lot of those things as you're traveling, and especially with the technology that we have today, you can do as much or as little as you want. And even I would say when you're traveling extended, get the people that you're traveling to involved in it. Let them teach a math lesson. Let them, read the book with your kid. Let them do something because that helps create beautiful memories for them. It takes some of the stress off you. It's different and fun and exciting, so your kids are more likely to be engaged. So utilize your resources and have fun with it.
And as you were talking, because I was a speech teacher, I was thinking how wonderful it would be to have kids give oral reports to grandparents or extended family once you arrive. I think that would be a benefit both directions.
Absolutely. And you can even record them. I mean, those can become some of the most cherished memories for all of you to have. And it's fun to look back at, as you're traveling over the years. Remember the first oral report that they gave to grandma and grandpa, and now look at, what they're able to know and do and share as they grow. So it's fun for everybody.
Yes. When we started talking about gratitude, we were mentioning Thanksgiving, I'm sure. I am interested to know if you have any other ideas besides what you've already shared with us about how we can use the holidays as an opportunity to teach character lessons, such as generosity and serving others, in addition to the gratitude that we already mentioned.
Yeah, well, the holidays line themselves up perfectly for this, right? Because they're all about giving of ourselves and being able to share our faith. How can we look more like Jesus when we're living out these holidays? It's very easy, especially in our Western world, to get very me focused, right? What am I going to get? What am I going to receive? I want, I need. And so I think it's really important to be very intentional with our kids in taking advantage of these teachable opportunities. Like I said, share through the month of November gratitude. We use gratitude prayer journals. We study scriptures related to it. We play the gratitude game around the dinner table. This is fun, even Thanksgiving or just a dinner. What are you thankful for today? And we, ABC, go in order and try and do it. There's lots of ways that you can build on that. But I think being intentional in that, and then for us, so the book that I wrote, A Marian Bride Adventure, focuses a lot on this concept of how do we get our eyes off of ourselves and the things that we want and back onto Jesus. And so each of those family devotions actually incorporates a lot of what does it look like to be the hands and feet of Jesus? How can these holiday traditions that are all around us actually point us to Jesus and help us create opportunities for our kids to live out their faith. What does it look like when we share the gospel through caroling or through writing Christmas cards, through thinking of those who have less, serving, sharing baked goods with neighbors and, those in need. And so I think there are so many ways that you can do this. It really just takes saying, I'm going to be intentional in it, and then I'm going to do a little bit of planning for it, because the opportunities are endless.
Yes, they absolutely are. I love holiday traditions, as I've already mentioned, but one of the different traditions that I adopted along the way is that I always was looking for a new tradition. And this year, the new tradition that I would commend to you, our listener, is to give Merry and Bright a try. At least look at it and get a sample of it and see what you think of it. My guess is that you are going to be absolutely enamored of it, like I was. I don't have young children at home anymore that I can use this with, but I am so excited to use this with grandchildren one day. So I am not going to give this book away to a fortunate listener because I love it that much. So Katie, will you tell us more about the format and what we can find inside?
Absolutely. So Merry and Bright Adventure has got 25 family-style devotions, and it's an interactive devotional. So they're all centered around common holiday traditions like a Christmas tree and lights and stars and bows. And we learn a little bit of history. So those of you who are like, hey, I need to incorporate homeschool, we actually have a homeschool adventure guide in it where we give you lots of ideas how to incorporate all of the subjects, where you can literally just use this book for your homeschooling through December if you want. There's lots of ways to do it. And so we start out with a scripture and a very interactive short devotion with a little guided prayer. And we have some discussion questions so you can cultivate that conversation with your kids. And then we have what I call a family adventure. And it's some fun way that connects that item, teaching them about Jesus and just making beautiful memories with the holidays. And then we have a holiday themed recipe. And if you're familiar with my other books are all more baked good type of recipes. This, even I who love baking, do not want to bake the 25 days before Christmas every day. So fear not, my friends. These are very simple. Many of them are things that you might already be incorporating, like a lunchtime sandwich that you cut into a star shape, or, a smoothie, lots of fun family holiday beverages and snacks and desserts, and a real mix. We actually include 31 different recipes, so you have some options if you're trying to be healthier or you have some allergies or sensitivities. And those recipes also include a little script that you can read that ties in the biblical principle you're trying to teach your kids. But like I said, they all really focus a lot on serving your community and spreading the gospel of Jesus and just connecting as a family and changing the way you look, so that as you're enjoying the sights and sounds of the holidays, you're reminded of the promises of God. You're reminded of the faithfulness. You're reminded of what it really means to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And we made it really easy too, with things like grocery supply lists, so you can shop and supply lists with it. On the website, we also have a free printable you can get. So if you're wanting templates and lots of activities and things, you can do as much or as little as you want with it.
Well, I absolutely love, love, love it, as I've already said. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. I am just so impressed by it. So, Katie, where is the best place for people to get it? Is it on your website? And if so, can you give us that URL?
Yeah, so you can go to maryandbrightadventure.com or katiejtrent.com if you're looking for all of my resources, but the book is available everywhere online books are sold. So if you have a favorite retailer, you just type in a Merry and Bright Adventure and you'll be able to find it there as well.
Well, Katie, this was just wonderful. I am really, really excited for the holidays now. And even though I don't have young kids at home, I am going to get to work on my own bucket list for the holidays. So thank you for the inspiration to get busy on that. Thank you again for joining us today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
To find the links to Now programs, Katie's new book, and how to connect with her online, visit the show notes page at homeschoolsanity.com/homeschoolholidays. Have a happy homeschool week. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. I hope something you heard was encouraging. If you have a personal question to follow up, don't hesitate to message me. I'm at Homeschool Sanity on social media. Be sure to check my free resource page at homeschoolsanity.com/resource and find Sanity Saving Curriculum at funtolearnbooks.com. This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.